wealth escapes everybody, right? Wealth escapes everybody from different leaks in the bucket. One of the biggest leaks in people's bucket is the tax bucket. People go, well, it is what it is. And I'm going, no, it ain't what it is. Go invest in real estate.
Yeah.
Go do something. Go start a new company. Go. And so the wealth, again, for most people, that the big comment is, I don't know where my money went. And when I look at it, it went into taxes.
Yeah.
They could have saved 5, 10, 15, 20,000, or even 30, 40, 50,000 every year and accumulated wealth and preserve and multiply that wealth, but they didn't because they chose the other way, what I call fear. Number one thing that stops people from doing what we're doing, fear.
Is that fear because they view it as the tax loophole that the media, really jumps on, that these are evil rich people with tax loopholes that are basically kind of doing illegal things, but they're too big where they'll never get caught? Is that where the fear comes from?
That's part of it. Part of it is fear that comes from the media, and the other part is your own belief.
Mm-hmm.
So
lack of education, they just don't understand it.
Right. And if you've just been exposed to your parents, like my parents never invested, this is a quick story, never invested in real estate. They had the opportunity to buy lakefront property in Canyon Lake. 1970, Chris, $3,000 an acre. And you know what they feared the most? What if? And I heard them argue all the time. What if we can't pay this? What if we can't? And then I think, God, what if we would have bought it? What my life would have been? I would have been either a great swimmer or I would have drowned in the lake.
Yeah.
I choose to be a great swimmer, but here's the thing. What I'm saying is most of the people who have doing real estate, a lot of people who are doing real estate have had a mentor, and a lot of other people, half of the people that are doing real estate have not. But why is that? Is because we've learned to listen to Kiyosaki. All these guys, we've gone and educate. And the more you can learn just from these podcasts like this, get comfortable with it. And execution. This is a good example. I've actually executed in the last 2 years, 10 syndications. I've gotten into 10 syndications in the last 2 years for apartments. Why? Because I'm comfortable. I was comfortable with commercial property. I was comfortable with residential property. I was comfortable with all that. Now I'm diversifying my portfolio. And the one thing that was missing was my investments in apartment complexes.
Yeah.
Now,
Kiyosaki talks about that a lot. I actually heard him on a podcast recently where, so I'd say the antithesis of his philosophy is more of the Dave Ramsey, like almost polar opposites, but both financial education. And
right.
But really, I mean, he was like, there's nothing, and this is him speaking. He was like, there's nothing wrong with Dave Ramsey. It's just if you invest in actual education, financial education, you realize there's just so much more available. Like you can get there so much faster. We did our first syndication this year with a $42 million multifamily deal in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm a small GP in this project, but that was an education that took over a year of following trusted investors that I knew and other folks and having conversations. And then this year also was the first that I've ever bought crypto and I've ever bought an NFT. I actually own an NFT when for years I've made fun of it. I actually joke. It was an absolute farce as far as I was concerned, but it was education. I have a completely different understanding. So education opens doors, right?
That's the key. And the more you open and exercise that education, that muscle expands in your mind. When I first bought my first commercial building, I still remember where I was at because it was an emotional purchase. And I mean, I was juiced up. And my wife looked at me straight in the eyes and said, "Are you sure?" And I looked at her straight in the eyes. I said, "Yes." And then I turned around and take a tequila shot. And she looked at me like, "What'd you just do?" I go, "Nothing." and I always tell people, if you need to take a tequila shot, just get better tequila every year as you keep growing your portfolio, because that's what I've done. And I'm a serious connoisseur of tequila. And I just literally, my wife knows that I'm going to buy something big every time I bring a new bottle of tequila. And it's a big dollar bottle. She's going, "Oh, this is going to be big. Oh, this."
There you go. We did the same thing with coffee. Our first big deal when we sold it, it was like $100 over 100 grand gross. We bought like because my wife's half Colombian.
Yeah.
So we bought like a $1,500, it was like a mini Starbucks in our house. And then every time our mom comes in from Colombia, she brings us like bags of like that rich Colombian whole bean coffee. It's I love it. I was never a coffee drinker before that, but that also keeps it fun. So tequila, coffee. Don't go do the Range Rover yet. Like build
Yeah,
up.
exactly.